Hello! I hope you're having a fabulous, fabulous day. I'm just relaxing with my cats while they nap. And yeah, just enjoying the afternoon. I know I haven't posted a part 3 to my story, and I feel like why not? Why not finish the trilogy? I feel like it's gonna be a trilogy. I don't imagine it going farther than a part 3. Because we're at 20. That's hilarious. We like literally went 1 year in the future from part 2. Okay, but yeah, we're starting back 2021, 2022 at my rock bottom when I was really like opening my eyes from like the just blah and really beginning to kind of crawl out of it. And like I shared in part 2, I just felt like I was at rock bottom my whole every area of my life. But you know, I was in the process of learning to reframe that, the clearing and the rock bottom, because I just how I was going wasn't working. And that's why I feel like we get into rock bottoms or it's like we just feel like we're so far gone, and it's like maybe we could check and see how we're doing more often. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But really, this was such a pivotal time for me because I was like freshly learning about these universal laws and about how the universe, you know, works in these patterns that are able to be replicated. And there's almost like this science to it, like just like this deeper connection. And I was at one of my lowest, and I was like trying to figure out how to get out and how to use all of that stuff when I wasn't really sure if it would work, you know? Like at that point I didn't have any proof, and my brain, it was just like this new way of thinking. And so it wasn't like, oh yeah, I just figured out the universe. Like I was still in such a raw place because of the rock bottom, you know. I hadn't really smoked. Oh, I wasn't allowed to. And so that was really big time when my hangovers were just getting really bad from drinking. And I'm sure I've shared here, but I feel like I was just like a binge drinker. And so it felt like, yeah, it felt far and few between, but when I did drink, it was just meh. But then also I feel like my body was starting to reject the alcohol too. And I think I was just really tapping into like this deeper purpose in my life, and one that I didn't have space to access because I was guarded. I hadn't really looked at my emotions. I was still, you know, numbing a lot of it. I think I numbed a lot. I mean, that's just, I'm a Pisces. Like, that's just what I do. And and it runs in the family, you know. And also it's like we're human, and like I don't want to addiction shame ever. I'm just like, okay, that was my choice to avoid, you know, what had always wanted my attention. Like me, like my inner self just wanted me to like not run away. And that was a huge part of of just, yeah, the whole time, that time in my life. And let's see, so 2022, I had like invested my first, this was, well, I think it was actually the turn of 2020 and sometime in 2021, around then, I was like really serious and I put down a couple $1,000 like to invest in myself. And that felt like one of the scariest decisions I've ever made. And definitely one where my logical brain was like, no, no, there's no way. Granted, my logical brain was also the one that was like, let's figure out all the ways we can afford this. And after me, like, deciding that I didn't want to work a job, I mean, I still did, like I said, but I was just like, well, I don't know how I'm going to afford that. And that was really the catalyst of me going into 2022 in such a different mindset, because I had never really given myself the idea like, hey, you're worth this, like you deserve this. I feel like I still had a lot of inner feelings of shame and guilt where I just, yeah, like, that's a lot of money, you're not worth like that, or and one, I'm worth $1 zillion. We're worth more than any price you could put on things. And we're not like shown that or taught that because of just the way that people navigate, like our parents navigated money, like the shit runs deep. And putting that money in my future that I had no idea what the fuck I was doing, like we had just I'm just laughing because we were literally like moving on. I was moving on faith, and I had no idea what faith was because I was an atheist. Like, up until 2019, I was probably like, well, I don't know. It was like when I kind of started reading about like Eastern philosophy and just understanding like just higher consciousness and levels of consciousness, and learning faith as an atheist felt so challenging. And why did I even start saying that? Oh, because like, I literally probably felt delusional, or people thought I would. My boyfriend, we love him, and I just would be like, hey, it's more, this house that we're applying for is more in rent, but we're gonna be able to afford it. And we never didn't not afford it. And like, that was an example of moving on faith when I had no idea. And when I bought that program, like, I had no idea. But had I not invested in that program, like, I would not be where I am today. I also have invested over 5 figures. So like, that purchase was like the first of many, but it's just like something that I'm so grateful that I did, even though it didn't make any logical sense. Because now I'm like sitting here sharing this story with you, and because of this journey that I went on to rediscover myself and really share love to myself, who always needed love and always needed support and always needed that encouragement, and for so long did not receive that and did not grow up to believe that she was worth that, and would go on to, live her life based on how she looked at herself. And like, that relationship has transformed. Like, I have transformed as a person. This relationship with myself has afforded me this life that I'm living. Like, literally, when you become your own best friend and cheerleader and supporter, like, you become unstoppable. And like, it's what our inner child always wanted, like, we always wanted to feel seen and to feel loved and to feel heard. And, even our teenager selves, like, she especially angsty and all, like, she deserved love. And my childhood felt like there was not, like, my parents were going through a divorce when I was a teenager, and it was just really hard. And, we do this shit for them, like, because we want them to know how much we love them and care for them and want to protect them at all costs. And yes, if you have a creative dream, like, yes, let's bring it to life, because what else is living for, like, just really giving that part of you that love and that care that she always deserved. And that's why we are these multidimensional creative queens, because we are taking that shit back and we're getting paid for it, and we're changing our lives, we're changing other people's lives, we're healing this world, we're fucking doing it. And I'm just so excited. So where were we? Yes, like 2022. Okay, so the beginning, God, okay, there might be a part 4, but I'll try to tell this story fast. Okay, so I had already taken that program, finished it, and really just had this new lens on life. Everything was different. I was still, coming out of my rock bottom, but I was learning how to move with the world. I was learning about my energy. I was learning about just technically I was learning about my own human design. So that with the astrology really started like working together. And I started, asking these questions of who am I and what am I good at and what are my strengths and how do I move in the world and what works best for my energy. And you could see the glow up in 2022. It's where actually the MAD method, a lot of the photos I've been using of the Photoshoot in the desert, that was a year where I was stepping into fucking let's go. I had written on a piece of paper. Okay, so I saw on the internet, by 2022, I had been, I had my radio station, I was DJing, I was still feeling very beginner, but I was putting in my reps and I was really just, getting seen. And I had mentioned, like, looking at all those beliefs I had and really writing new beliefs of like how I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel like my community cared, like they loved the music that I played, that they supported me, that I was a good, talented artist, that I wrote a lot of music. I just started writing these down. And so on the internet in January, I remember seeing like this music festival that's Wizard of Oz themed. They were coming to my city to do one of the contests, and I was like, holy shit. And I was like, okay, if this shit's real, I'm gonna write it down on a piece of paper and we're gonna do it. And I did. And this is January and the contest isn't until April, so it's like I had like 4 months where I had to be like, okay, well, if this is gonna come true, then I need to really just like lock in. And that's kind of what I did when I manifested the music festival in 2021. I was just like, okay, well, if this is true, I'm going to apply what I know and do it. And so I did it, and this was another one that I was doing. And, I would do the scripting. I would journal as if I would like really see who I was when I was winning the contest. And a lot of questions that I usually ask is like, well, what would that version of myself, how do they feel? Like, usually calm, because they're not like worried about it, because they already know they have it. And so that was a lot of the energy I was channeling when I was thinking about it. And then I was like, okay, well, what does it mean to like really feel like you won? Like, how do you feel certain that you won before you've even won? And if that ain't the question of the century. But yeah, that was really, I had to, one, surrender to the fact that I wrote it down, and I had to like let go and trust. And then I really had to embody that I know that it was coming true. And that part was really challenging, because I'm a really sensitive and feelings oriented person, but I had never really felt, I was still new and still learning how to apply these laws of energetics and the law of attraction, and so I was still building proof in myself. Like, at that point, I had manifested and called in a music festival performance. And yes, so this was kind of like only the second time. And I was like, our brain's like, well, that was just one time. Like, you can't do it again. But, if the laws of the universe work in this way, then I can do it again. And so, what do you know? I just really was like, okay, well, I can't, even at the 11th hour, I can't not ever believe that this is my reality. And, that's like crazy to think about, and you don't know until you're like living in it. But so I submitted the mix. The organizer loved what I did. I ended up actually like photoshopping a picture of me on Dorothy's body, Dorothy from Wizard of Oz, and with Toto, and I used that as like the image that I sent. And you had to submit like a 30 to an hour, probably 30, a 30-minute mix. They would listen to it, and then they would move you forward if they liked it. Well, I should have known, like, the dude loved mine. And then he even shared it to his Facebook. And I was like, holy shit, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. And then, so I get the call back that I can go to the next round, which means I was going to play in April. Well, this is crazy. This is crazy because I was like, okay, I'm going to dress up as Dorothy. One, I was the only woman on the lineup, which unfortunately is like a common thing for women who DJ and produce music. And I was the only woman on the lineup, and I was like, I'm going to dress up as Dorothy. So I like ordered a Dorothy costume. I probably get it from my dad because he like goes all out for Halloween costumes. But I was like, I got the perfect hair. I can just do it. And I always loved, the whole thing resonated because we used to watch The Wizard of Oz as a kid. And we fucking loved that movie. My sister loved it. She used to always act out the Cowardly Lion part. And it was just a special place. I always loved her ruby red slippers. And yeah, so it had that sentimental value. And so I was just like, whoa, this is cool. And then the fact that I was like writing it down on a piece of paper. And so fast forward to fucking April 2022. This contest, so the rules of the contest were that you would play like a 20-minute set, or I don't know, it was like a limited amount of time for each person. And like voting doesn't start until 10 p.m. and there's like sets from like 7 p.m. to like 3 a.m., you know, because there's people on the lineup and they're trying to fit it. And so I was like, I got a good slot. I think I got the slot right before you could start voting, which was great because people could listen to my set and just go vote. But you could only vote for one person. And there was a DJ on the lineup who was like, had definitely been doing it longer than me. Like he had been probably like 10 years longer than me, or I don't know, just longer than me, had more of a following, more established, you know. And I, you know, you see the lineup of people you're going to compete against. I always hated competitions because I was just always like, and, you know, no one wants to lose. It's vulnerable. And I remember thinking and catching myself thinking like, oh, well, you're not going to win because people are going to vote for that guy. And I had to catch myself because, you know, that's not the reality that I would be living in. Like, and so I would be like, okay, well, if it is true that I win this contest, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about that because I win, so it didn't matter. And so that was like something that I kept focusing on. How can I reconnect to the identity, the timeline where that is true? And, you know, that is something that I had to keep reminding myself of, like when I was getting ready to go to the show. Like I remember like getting dressed up and like putting on my Dorothy costume and preparing for my set. I had even like, this is me as a person, I had like, I told you we love this movie. I had taken these sound bites from the movie and like sprinkled them into my set. So there was kind of like this like storyline, this arc, you know, so that by the end of the set, it was like, there's no place like home. And y'all, it was perfect. It's actually on the internet if you ever want to go listen to it, because, oh wait, is it? I think so. But yeah, this set was amazing. And I remember going in being like, fuck. I had seen, you know, when you see people there, I had seen that DJ and I saw that he had freaking so many people. And I was like, if this is a votes process, if whoever has the most votes wins, then he is gonna win. Like just by system of like process of math and stuff. And I had to keep telling myself, don't give up now. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. And like, I remember even, okay, like, hold on, I need to get some water. I remember that I was so nervous that night. And, you know, I was still trying to like be the person who knew they were gonna win and not believe that it was a problem. And I was like, I think Davis was with me. I had like seen some people, like I had gotten votes and stuff. And I remember just like telling myself internally, like, relax, 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 relax. And I would even like listen to the other performers. I would like listen to their sets, dance, you know, and And if I liked it, I would catch a groove. And there was someone I remember was like, this guy's not even from Memphis. I think he said he's living somewhere else in another state. It's crazy that they let him perform, but whatever. But his set was really good, and I was like, fuck, like I just kept being like reminded, like, oh, you're not gonna win. Like, what about this guy? What about this guy? And I'm like looking at myself in my Dorothy costume, and I'm like, you can't give up now. Like, there's still a chance. There's still a chance. There's still a chance. There's still a chance. And so I like kept telling myself that. I kept telling myself that. And I just remember, like, it was a great night. I had so much fun. I put my whole heart into it. And I even remember the organizer was like, had videotaped, or he like had recorded me and put me on his story of this Toxic Pony remix that I played. And it was so good. But I was like, I think the guy was also surprised that I had even worn a Dorothy outfit. So, and I think probably, Wizard of Oz was important to him too, in some weird soul way. But anyways, so that night I remember I got to get my phone charger because it said my phone's gonna die, and I can't let my phone die in the middle of this story. But I remember going home and just remembering, like, to keep the faith and keep the faith and keep the faith and keep the faith. And I don't think, I'm trying to remember the order of events. So I remember just telling myself, like, fuck, if they are doing the votes, then I am a goner. I'm a goner. I'm a goner. You know how your brain gets. And yeah, I'm really trying to remember when the results came in. Like, I feel like he didn't tell us. Like, we had to wait for it to get posted on social media, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but I think I just remember it being like, we didn't find out that night, and it had been time, and I just like kept telling myself, keep the faith, keep the faith, keep the faith, keep the faith. And I remember it like coming out that I think the votes had chosen the DJ, the popular one. And at some point, I get like this message from the organizer on my Instagram. And he was like, I'm gonna announce you as judge's choice. Stay tuned, or something. And I remember being like, what? What? Like, and that, yeah, now I remember. The DJ had gotten announced as the winner, and like the official winner. And then at some point later, the organizer had messaged me on Instagram. So like, I remember being like, oh my God, is that real? Is this real? Because there's no, graphics on social media where it says it. And so in that point, I'm like, wait. I mean, does that mean it's true? Is it going to happen? Is he going to back out? Is he going to change his mind? Is it going to... And it was like, all these thoughts are like rushing through my brain. And that little part of me was like, girl, you got to let go and trust. You got to trust. And at that time, this will have to be a separate conversation. But this was when I went on the trip. It was like the day after we had gone on a trip to Las Vegas, and we were living on a dream because we were like, it just felt very out of our budget at that time in our life. But I was just riding high, and I was like, I'm pretending that I am DJing this one show, flying out to go fly to another. And I was just really embodying that energy. And I was like, I have to embody this energy that I won. And also, I didn't want to spoil the surprise, like, because I was scared to really say, like, oh, and tell everyone that, oh, yeah, he messaged me that I won. So, yeah, I was still wrapping my brain around that. And so I don't think they announced it until it was a while. But yeah, I just had to like keep the faith. And I could not believe, I was like, oh my God, did I literally like will that into existence? Like, because of the way I was like thinking about it. And sure enough, like I had gotten added to the lineup, and it was crazy. I was just like, I can't believe this. I literally can't believe this. And that would really like, show me like, hey, this shit is working. This shit is serious. Like, keep following this. I mentioned about the red carpet. I had shared about my friend calling me for the radio show. And, it was just like, boom, like that happened. I think that was the year that I played like I went to like 10 music festivals and I played at 4. So that was really my like, really stepping into my shine, share my magic, connect with my gifts, and really just like, this is it. This is what I'm here to do. This is literally the universe rolling out the red carpet for me, and I get to go live this life. And it was just wild. Meanwhile, 2022 is this like, that's crazy to think. Did I literally move out? Because gosh, I think that really was, because I had made another thing, and I was like, at the time I wanted to move to a new city. I wanted to go leave my hometown and go move to a new city. And I was like, okay, well, if this is a repeatable process, I can write this down. I can call this into my reality too. And we ended up moving December of 2022. And it was wild. It was like what I had written down. Granted, we had to go through a lot of stuff. The house was like flooded when we got there, which was a crazy thing. But we ended up, in the place that we've been at for a few years. We found our sweet little kitties. We have 4 cats. But that was not for a few years. But yeah, I was just on this energy of like, okay, I can start calling in what I want. Like, the shit that I'm writing down is coming true. I can build this business. I can follow my creative dreams. I can make this shit happen. Now, 2021 there was like a little shining highlight, because that was the year that I had found out that my research got published in a new neuroscience journal, like a science journal, like a peer-reviewed journal. It's like a big deal, and that was like a shining light in 2021. But yes, 2022 taught me so much, and it was really a big year when I was embodying that like energy of like, I like kind of like the act as if energy, like really just like embodying like who is this woman? Like, who is she? Like, who does she want to be? Like, what does she enjoy? And really just building that relationship with myself. Because then in 2023, I actually started tarot reading, and that was when I started my business, like, legally. 2022 was the year that I started my business. I had sold my first workbook, and that was like so exciting because I was really applying everything, and I was like, if I can write this shit down and bring it to life, I'm just gonna do it because I can't work for anyone else, and I want to be able to create when I want and people not tell me what to do. And a neurodivergent stream, I just want to stem and not be bothered. But yes, 2023 was a hard year, and it was hard moving to Nashville. It was, if you want to know, I've done like a deep dive on my podcast about like all of that stuff. But that was like one of the first years where that felt like another rock bottom because I had done some 1099 when I got to Nashville, and I just didn't want to work in a restaurant again. I didn't. And I really was like, I want to make this creative stuff work. I want it to work. I really need it to work. And I was really kind of like gripping a lot. And I now can see. But at the time, I was just like, well, if I just believe hard enough, and if I just like, and I definitely think I needed to be there because I needed to go through that, and I needed to, I had just started doing tarot readings, and I had some business, which was great. Like, I had business. And it wasn't, I was like calling in like higher amounts of money. And because it wasn't immediately there when I started my business, I was like getting really frustrated. And I think a lot of that year, I did not work. I didn't, like I said, want to go to the restaurant. There was no job hiring that I wanted to do. I had actually just gotten, I'm like trying to think about it now. I don't even freaking know. Okay, well, because there was a time when we moved to Nashville when I worked as a after school club science teacher, and that's another random side quest that I did, but that was really cool. And it was cool, but not the people that I worked with. And also being sober and teaching kids is like a lot. Newly sober. I had just quit drinking alcohol that November 2022. So before we moved to Nashville, I quit drinking alcohol because it was just not vibing with my body. And yes, 2023 was just, that was my learning year. I definitely learned a lot, but I also had started posting on YouTube. I was doing longer collective readings on YouTube, and that was like before I had wanted to get my podcast video. I really was like, ooh, that sounds cool, and I really enjoyed creating that, and I really enjoy long form video. And I just have experience editing and making the videos, and so that was a really cool creative year for me. I was posting TikTok tarot readings, which was cool. I was really just like building my confidence, building my visibility on camera. And let me take a sip. Yeah, just building my confidence, talking, being seen, and just figuring out like what I wanted to share. I still had my podcast. I was still DJing. And so like by this time, I was sorry, there's like banging it downstairs. But yeah, by this time, I was at like just discovering new levels of creativity. Yeah, I think being newly sober really was. I was like, all my sensitivity felt like it was hitting me like a train. And I was just so sensitive, not to mention I was still learning to create and, live in this new city. And try to build our life. Like it felt like since we had a crash landing here, it was really challenging to like find our groove. So it feels like 2023 was just like a year. But I did start working with this entertainment company, so that was cool. More 1099 work, like working with the photo booth. And then ultimately I ended up DJing a couple gigs for them, like a daddy-daughter dance and like a high school dance. But yeah, I'm grateful for those opportunities. It was just, yeah. They also taught me what I didn't want out of a job and what I didn't want to do. And, as a neurodivergent person and just as a person in general, like, I just know I don't want someone to tell me what to do. And it's not like a bad thing, and it doesn't have to be anything. It's just like, a prerequisite. I don't want to have to not enjoy what I'm doing. And so I think I had broke down and I was like, fine, I'll look for a restaurant job. And I like had did my thing where I was like, I'm going to make a list of what I want out of this job. Literally 5 minutes from the house, brand new, because I didn't want to work in an old restaurant. But it was crazy. I was like, the restaurant was just being built. There was sawdust in there when I went for my interview. And that was actually the month before was when I woke up to being featured in Billboard magazine. They were just like talking about the radio station I was a part of, and they were talking about me and DJ Spanish Fly's like radio show segment. So that was fucking so cool and crazy to wake up to. But then January 2024 is when, I called in a new job, and I had to surrender that I needed to just go work at a restaurant again and that it would be okay. And then I also had to make terms with like, it's okay that I needed to supplement my business income with other income. It didn't mean I'm a failure. It didn't mean anything. And I just kind of had to let go to that. And I loved getting back into serving. That's my bread and butter, no pun intended. Well, pun intended. But that is what I grew up doing since high school, and had experience doing, through college. And so it was also the month Davis and I had been living here for a year, and his boss, we had talked about cats, but his boss was like, oh yeah, there's a cat. I'm looking at it right now. There's a cat over here, a mama cat and a baby cat over here, if you want to come meet them. And so we had like talked about it, and we met them, and long story short, they are here. We took them home, and one of them ended up being pregnant, so we have her babies, and we're a nice little family. But 2024 was a big year for that. And so 2023, I also that fall had invested in like a for real coach, and that was like a different experience because I really got to see like how that stuff worked. And so then 2024 is when I really started. I was like, well, I want to get back in the music. I had been DJing. I realized I needed to just go ahead and let go of my radio station because I had moved. I had to email it, it just got a little complicated. And so, what's it called? I had ended up getting to play this gig. Like I'd always like had this vision that I would play like the kind of music that I DJ. I feel like smoky, dark room that you can't really see, probably lasers. But yeah, I had always envisioned that kind of like sweaty because you're sweaty from dancing. And I got to play a show like that in June, and it was like a woman threw it. It was just like a cool vibe. And yeah, that was like one of the first shows back I had played here. And then later that year, I got asked if I wanted to play this show that ended up selling out. And yeah, it was just crazy at a big venue here in town. And the artist that I opened for that fall actually just played the Sphere, which blows my fucking mind. I've like opened for someone who played at the Sphere. But if that tells you where I'm going. And so then I'm gonna play the Sphere one day, mark my words. And then yeah, 2024 just really showed me like, girl, get back into the music. And I've shared it's kind of been this like off on, like I'll go really deep in my business and I'll go really deep in my music and then I'll come out and do the other, you know, like I like doing that. And so then that year was also the one that I kind of cut ties with every single person I knew here in town, and it just wasn't aligned and it was hurting me to stay. And yeah, but that was a hard year. 2024 was a hard year, so getting to play those shows felt like really rewarding for my soul. And then in 2025 I actually like made the decision to like intentionally alchemize all of that and put it into writing an EP. And so I wrote my first EP and put it out in 2025 last March. And that was so beautiful. And that was like one of the first ways that I realized I can like start to alchemize this stuff and then get paid via stream. So it's like I'm creating art and alchemizing shit that I've had to deal with and shit that I've carried. And now I can get paid, and I can also connect with people all over the globe, make people feel seen in their feelings and their experience, share stuff that I think is cool, like draw and create and paint and write and speak and touch all of these people and these communities. And you know, I just continued to call in like align opportunities, align gigs, align festivals, and like it's all because of this relationship that I created with myself, this partnership that I created with myself. Like, this shit is insane. I think some people have called it bananas, but it's just wild, like, that we have these gifts that we came here to share, and that we have this unique magic, this unique lens that only we can share. Like, that is the part that blows my fucking mind. And like that becomes our source. Like, your uniqueness is the key. Like, you are successful just because you are you. And the ones who discover that are the ones who don't give up. They're the ones who go on the journey. They're the ones who take the chance, who take that first step to let the universe roll out the red carpet. Like, yes, like your life changes when you really discover who you are and you build that bond with yourself and that relationship, and it becomes unbreakable. And you can literally do anything. You will you will be so connected to yourself that you become like a shiny, sparkly, iridescent prism that is just radiating, shining this light so that all of your people can find you. Like I was sharing today on my threads, like at the beginning you're like, is anyone gonna care about this art? And then one day someone's like, you changed my whole life because of this song. And then you're just like, oh my God, like this is what it's about. It's about like helping each other feel seen and helping each other feel less alone. And like that is just what is so beautiful about being an artist. Like we can share and create this art and these creations, and then like other people can feel something because of something we've created, and then their life's changed, and then they can go change other people's lives, and then it's just this huge ripple where we are all impacting each other positively and helping each other and healing, and like, and we're all creating, we all feel safe to create, and we all feel safe to tap into this joy and this peace that we are so worthy of. And I kind of fast forwarded through the story, but here we are, 2026, doing it, working with dream clients, living the business that I had always written down and dreamed of, and getting paid to share my gifts and my music and helping other people tap into their creativity and their power. And it's like this lovely full circle moment that I'm so glad that I took the chance, and I'm so glad that I invested that money, and I'm so glad that I believed in myself long enough to like see it through. And like I'm just so glad. Like it's something that like just finding the words is hard, but it's a choice that I'm so happy that I made, and so grateful that I took that chance and really let the universe roll the red carpet out for me. Thank you so much for listening to this part 3 and this trilogy. And yes, you are so special to me. I'm so grateful that you're here in my little group where we just embrace the madness and share our hearts. And yeah, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.